I'm just curious, what happens if somebody asks it something that's outside of its purview? Say, like, "Hey, Pocket Petra, you want to chat today? Hey, how you doing today?" They're just lonely and want somebody to talk to. Does it have something that cues up and says, I can't talk about that"?
Well, it's interesting you said that because mental wellness is huge, and it's in HR departments, keeping track of how the workers actually feel day to day. Because are they going to come in tomorrow if it's a bottom line, or can we make your day better? Good HR departments and good HR employees really do care about the employees. So in a situation like that, it's whatever the company.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Space Tomatoes podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Havok.
I'm the other guy, LX. Hello.
That other guy.
Welcome back.
Love him.
All those things.
Today we have with us special guest Derek Crager, founder and CEO of Practical AI, creator of Pocket Mentor, and author of Human First AI. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Well, thank you both. I appreciate the invite to bring me in.
Absolutely. So, Human First AI, what is that concept and where does it come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're actually in this early path to this AI adoption from the consumer level. This is like our fourth year. And in internet time frame, it really took the internet about 17 years for people to adopt the internet. It came out in 89. People really didn't hop on in mass until about 2006. So AI, we're still at this polarization point. And if we talk about the adoption, that's the human factor. And there's polarization. It's early, and it really gets into change management, which is the psychology of adoption. And right now, AI is so early, people don't know what they're adopting, and they have to know before they can make a choice. So it's the polars here are, God and the devil. AI is the end all to be all on the positive aspect, or, AI is here to take our lives. I heard quotes that there's a 10% possibility that AI is going to outlive us. So I thought that was interesting. But I think we're here. I think there's a third path, and that Yogi Berra quote comes to mind. If you know what I'm talking about, when you come to a fork in the road, what do? Well, you pick it up. So here we are. We don't need to choose all or nothing. We can keep the baby and throw out the bathwater separately. And Human First AI does this. If not for humans, the business success that we have today across all corporate enterprise wouldn't have happened. It's all been labor and mind of humans. So why is the conversation focused on replacing humans if humans is what got us here? So does AI do good stuff? Oh my God, absolutely it does good stuff. But there's 6 or 7 items that humans will always do better than AI. So Human First AI is keeping the humans employed and giving the humans the ability to control what AI does. So Practical AI, my company, our philosophy is use AI to think with the human, not for the human. That's a big difference. And it even goes beyond human in the loop, because human in the loop, that's kind of a catchphrase that people are using, is like, hey, let's put a human in here. We're going to check on it every hour. Oh, I'm tired. Let's check on it once a day. You know what? Nobody's died yet. Let's check on it once a week, once a month. It gets to be the point. Human in the loop is just a laugh. It really doesn't mean anything. But if we use AI to think with the human, then we can empower the humans to do what they've always done well. And that's to make choices outside the box. AI is great. AI is technology. So AI will only do what we program it to do. And what do we call it? That box on our desk, or corporate, the box in the database center. And AI can only do what we program it to. And by definition, that fits inside a box. So what happens when things go wrong in both the white collar environment and the blue collar environment is that humans have to take over. They have to step in no matter what. And if we get used to AI making all of our decisions, then our businesses become brittle. And so human first AI is really empowering the human to be better than they are so they can continue to be the integral cog in the business.
Yeah, it's always been a striking thing for me, right? To see companies looking at replacing humans with AI. And while I can understand as a short-sighted approach where that might be somewhat desirable for a company whose obvious mission is to make dollars for the shareholders, et cetera, the fact of the matter is our economy relies on these humans, and more unemployed humans means less humans to spend on the thing that you're producing, meaning you're literally destroying your own marketplace by replacing the humans with AI, right? It's always been a thought for me.
Well, humans will get replaced through technology. It's happened in the past and it'll continue to happen. But it doesn't mean they're going to be displaced entirely. If we think back to AT&T days when the operators were replaced, they used to do the, I think we're all old enough in the room to remember the switchboard operators in comedy skits, so we're aware of them, whether we used them or not. But switchboard operators that literally plugged in wires to make calls were replaced with computers. And I think it was NPR that did an episode or a two-part episode saying that what ended up is that those roles got displaced, but the workers ended up in jobs better than they had. Mm-hmm. And then if we go even further back, guys, to the agricultural revolution, let's say, I don't know, as close as 150 years ago, the number was that one farm would feed 2 families. And I don't know about you, brother, but I'm glad I'm not out there detasseling corn and rowing and hoeing behind a donkey, because I'm glad we advanced using some technology there. And what happened is that the masses ended up finding, I think the agricultural revolution really led to the industrial revolution. That's when, the Fords, Henry Fords were out there that created assembly lines and brought us humans that hate the sun and the weather and the rain inside to do some work. And there was some adoption there as well, but ultimately quality of life increased and we went on.
Yeah, no, I definitely see that. I think there will be some replacement. My hope is that it's not as pervasive as is potential and possible, right? I mean, you have companies coming out that are replacing entire, shops with nothing but robotics, ML, machine learning, and AI, right? Literally no staff on site. Someone comes, fills the bins, and that's it. And my fear with that is that we get to a situation where we're replacing all of these entry-level positions, which are critical to our economy, in that they are the training grounds for new people coming into a workforce, right? Very, very few people start at a, higher position at a corporation straight out of the gate. They cut their teeth in retail, making coffee, doing things like this. And what happens if that all goes away? What's your experience?
I've heard tell that there's like drive-thrus that are using that, like McDonald's and stuff. I don't go there, so I don't know. But my in-laws told me they hate it because I guess they got their order wrong a bunch of times. So I don't know. That's kind of taken away. I mean, my first job was at McDonald's, so that's kind of taken away from younger people, I think. I don't know what other instances there are.
Well, let me clarify my stake in being here. I am not here to defend AI in any way. AI is a tool and it can be used good or bad, just like every tool that's out there. The headlines read that AI is going to cause our brains to stop functioning. And I remember that I had this cool, in seventh grade, I had this cool Casio calculator watch. And people today, you know, current generations, they don't realize that the headlines back in the, late 70s, early 80s, when these calculators came around that we could fit in our pocket or on our wrist, that the headlines were, hey, we can't have students using calculators. You know, computers are going to think for them. They're going to become stupid. But what really happened is it elevated the individual. So yes, let's teach basic math is what we learned. This is the takeaway, now 40 years later or so. And the discussion went on for about 20 years. And that's kind of like a psychological adaptation. It takes about one generation for the world to adapt. And what we found out is that, hey, let's teach children how to do the basic math so they understand what math is. But then let's let them use calculators so they can reduce that load on their mind so they can have more free time to spend learning higher level math. And that's what happened. We came away and the entire world was, enlightened might be too strong a word, but the entire world literally got smarter because now all the time that they would spend doing manual addition, subtraction, multiplication, division was spent at a higher level math to understand how to solve problems, not just push numbers together.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see, I think AI is an immensely powerful augmentation tool. I do obviously see areas where it will replace workers. And I think there's a lot of room for reskilling. And I think, robotics in general has done that and shown us this as well. You look at manufacturing floors, you pointed out Ford, right? The auto manufacturing industry was one of the very first places that started replacing workers with automated assembly lines. But it wasn't a wholesale replacement. And, ostensibly was good for the people that were displaced a little further down the line, right?
Well, and understand too that any technology that comes out, every company is trying to take advantage of it. They figure it's the genie out of the bottle and let's just use it and apply it to everything. In my book, I talk about when electricity, not invented, but adopted, both residential and commercially, industrially, people were throwing electricity as a solution for everything. And I kind of point out when a company says we're an AI company, you might want to stay away from that company because that's like saying, the Kroger grocery store is an electric company because they use electricity to keep their refrigerators cold. And that's what happened back, 120, 30 years ago or so when electricity was being adopted. Some people, if you ask the random person, walking down the street, said, when was the electric car invented? They might say 2000, 2010, 1995. It was originally around 1900. It was when electricity was being adopted because they were using this new technology, industrialized to try to solve for problems that really weren't even there. They're trying to paint with a large brush. And that's what's going on today. AI is being thrown at every problem before there even is a problem. And just to put, hopefully, the majority, if not all of your audience at rest here that's concerned about losing their job, MIT results indicate that 95% of all corporations that have adopted AI, 95% have been failures. There's only been 5% that have an ROI. So, and that's because they're throwing everything, throwing that spaghetti against the wall. They're just trying to see what sticks. And in the end, the human factor is always going to be the human factor. And we need the human factor because we do adopt and because humans do adapt and we do think outside the box. These are things that computers aren't going to be able to do. So it's going to allow us as the individual, whether it's at home or at the shop or the office, it's going to allow us to really get a boost. We're going to have to start thinking like managers, project managers, supervisors, and we're going to be doing the same work, but we're going to be using new tools, and we get new tools all the time. And that's all AI truly is. It's just a new tool. And I encourage everybody just to, play with it like it's Play-Doh. Just feel it out and see what it is. But don't be worried about the wholesale economy losing their job, because it's not going to happen. There's going to be those that are directly affected. But you mentioned Havok, reskilling. Reskilling is so much easier to do today than it was 50 years ago. That the opportunities are really endless out there for humans. We're never going to be put out of work permanently.
Yeah, I don't know that I hold quite the same level of
Optimism.
It's concerning for me, and here's why. Right? I mean, gunpowder was created. Right. Well, before gunpowder, black powder was created, and it was used to create these beautiful displays with fireworks. And then we decided we could put it in, a tube and kill people further away. And then dynamite was created. No, we can clear these roads, and we can do mining operations and make tunnels, so railways don't have to go way around these mountains and all this. But we can put them in bombs and drop them on people. And the nuclear development came about, and it was like, free energy. I mean, literally energy for everyone on the planet. Let's put in a bomb and kill a bunch of people.
What is any invention if you can't weaponize it? Come on. I mean, that's, where it all ends up eventually.
Yeah, let's hope that it some of that is tempered. I
think it's too late for that.
Well, hope is contagious. Let's keep it.
We're going to have the dogs with the guns, the robot dogs with the guns on
we already
heads
do
pretty soon. I know.
Already do.
You can have one right in your neighborhood.
Yeah,
watch where you go.
As long as I can have one, it's okay. If everyone has one, it'll be okay.
On an unrelated note, I don't know if you've seen, I guess there's a lot of people cutting down these flock cameras with the hacksaws. Have you seen that?
I have.
I saw there's a hack that shows what was it was one of my doom scrolling videos. It was like Veritasium or something. They were talking about those flock cameras that are all over United States. We're United States
everywhere
based, but they said except for this one town. And this guy, he did his video, and he said, "Hey, I actually ended up connecting to those cameras, and I shared them out to the public, and they got mad."
Yeah,
I bet.
Yeah, they actually did a really poor job of securing the systems. You actually can get into them and just go peruse all of the artifacts in there. And that put out, number of people have been doing various things. I obviously don't want to encourage anyone to vandalize things. And I would certainly never tell someone that a 1000 nanometer green laser pointed at a flock camera lens would damage it. So don't do those types of things.
I heard a rumor there's like $200 in gold and copper inside all those things. I don't know if that's true or not, but
hey, we'd have to look. We really don't know until we test out that theory ourselves, right?
That's right. Somebody's testing it out, I think. Not me, but somebody.
So part of your history, you actually worked for Amazon. I'm not sure if it was a contractor role or you were actually working in the employ of Amazon, but you created apparently they're the highest rated employee training program in their history. How did that go?
Well, it sounds like it went pretty good the way you tell it.
It sounds like. But I mean, okay, so sorry, not how did that go, but what made it so successful? What was it that you did with the training program that made it something more than here's your 1 hour mandatory training you have to sit and slog through?
Well, it turns out, and I did work for Amazon directly, and I was on the reliability team, which is a cool way of saying, maintenance and engineering, the ones that keep the, the robots and the conveyors running, that sort of thing. And When I got there, I was in the reliability org, which is a smaller org than all of Amazon. Amazon employs, I don't know, let's say 1.5 million globally, and I think my group at the
Wow.
time, at least for North America, was still around like 45,000 people, which it's good size, even if it was a company. But it was an org within Amazon, and the hiring, because it was skilled, whether it be skilled trades, men and women that work with their hands, or engineering that's, trained to do specific things, on schematics and computers, they would hire in and just expect them to work. So Amazon would hire the people. We kind of had a joke about it. And the joke was, hey, so-and-so's in the deep end of the pool. Do you think he'll make it out? Well, hey, he's looking good. He's looking good. Oh, nope, he went under. He's back up. He's back up. Nope, went down for the count. Well, we got to get another one. And the numbers tell the truth here. I think the attrition rate was around 82 or 83%, which means for every 100 people that Amazon hired in that organization internal, that 83 would just leave on their own accord. They just didn't make it, and that becomes expensive. So it's unfortunate that the role of education is put at the bottom of the rung, and that lever isn't pulled until there's a business need, strong enough business need. So they asked me, and they didn't tell me I was the last person they asked, but I think it was December 14th when I got a call, and they said, hey, I think it was 2021 in December when I got the call, and this was during this COVID pandemic that a lot of people were talking about. And Amazon had committed in North America, we had 500 warehouses, or what we call fulfillment centers. And in 1 year, it took 25 years to get to 500. And in 1 year, their plan was to double that to 1,000. And so I got this call on December 14th, and it says, hey, Derek, we're doing this thing. And they gave me the details, and they thought, do you think we should train them, these new hires? Because if we're doubling the amount of fulfillment centers, we're going to have to double the employees to go, let's say, from, 45,000 and 90,000, or some rough doubling of employment. I said, yeah, that'd be a good idea. And it's a phone call, so I'm wondering if it's tongue in cheek that the question came about. They said, great, do it. And I thought, yeah, I had that. I was okay. I said, how about some particulars here? And I said, when would you like to see this program up and running? They said, oh, I don't know, January 1st. And, it's corporate America, and it's December 14th, and corporate America takes the last 2 weeks of December off, at least in North America we do. And I thought, okay, I got that extended out to, I think, like January 18th or something. So I got me 2 or 3 more weeks to get started. But that was the first class that came in. And so frankly, we started, I had some connections, some people that helped launch some centers, and I just said, hey, meet me here. And actually, one of the guys lives in Florida. He said, hey, you come to Tampa, Florida, I'll be down there and help out. So I said, heck yeah. So we just brought everybody to Tampa, Florida. This is when all the restaurants are closed, hotels are nearly closed, and we rented out a restaurant in the hotel we were at, and we started our first class. And our first class was, I think, 24 people. Eventually, the next class, it got up to 40 and 40 and 40 and consistently. But that class started at 24, and it was 2 weeks long. And we said, all right, what should we talk about? And we literally put it to a vote. What don't you know? And we talked about it. And then that evening, there's about 4 or 5 of us. We'd sit around the hotel lobby, or we'd talk over dinner and say, hey, what did we talk about today? All right, let's put that down, because our presentation slides, our PowerPoint was literally just welcome to class. And so each class, every day and every week, and then class after class, the secret was listening to the people that are actually doing the work and finding answers. And it sounds, I don't know, maybe a little too easy, but a lot of people overlook easy, and we just made it happen. We listened to the people, we filled it in, and I believe in continuous improvement. And that's what we did. The class was continually improved from class to class to class to class. I made sure that everybody had connections with everybody else from class. We were bringing in people that didn't normally work together, because we might have managers from different locations that, each one manager per shift or one manager per location. So they didn't have that camaraderie out there. So they were literally, like I described earlier, in the deep end by themselves. So the moral of the story is, you give humans the right information at the right time, they can do some magnificent, successful projects. That's what we did.
Wow. Yeah, that truly is it's a wonderful take there. Really, honestly, I can't even count the number of trainings that I've gone to, and I don't think I've ever been engaged in the beginning of a training to ask, well, what do you know? What don't you know? What do you need help with? Right? Which that right there seems like just such a practical thing to do, but I've never seen it. Never once. That's pretty cool. It worked. I did not pretend to have all the answers. We all stayed vulnerable. And the first day of class was actually never about Amazon stuff. It was always about get to know yourself and get to know other people. And anybody that's taken any part of a leadership training, that's effectively what all the training revolves around. Hey, everybody's different. So let's just, put up, 3 legs to a table or a chair, because it takes more than one to hold it up. That's wonderful. What are some of your favorite lessons from that period, and what would be like one big takeaway you got from the experience of developing this, implementing it, learning through it, etc.?
Well, for myself, I think my big takeaway was everybody can contribute. And we've had individuals that spent a long time with Amazon. We had people that came in from different industries, come in to Amazon as brand new employees. But the goal was the same. It was to come up with a system that allowed each person to maximize their potential. So there was no one way is the right way. There was no my way or the highway. It was, hey, let's flex, let's listen in. And that really started on day one of the programs, because we would meet in person. And we would have, I would get there early, and we'd organize, hotel lobbies, restaurants, etc. I would think I would have tables and chairs that were on 7-foot centers, so everybody had their personal space. I think 6 foot was a number everybody was throwing around. We were all wearing masks, and eventually, eye shields or goggles, and that made communication much more difficult, at least in the early years. So maybe that's what forced us to be patient. I mean, I really don't know, but the takeaway is the same either way. Everybody's voice counts, and make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak up.
I'm a little bit curious. I don't know if you might mind sharing a little bit behind the curtain. When my wife is looking at pajama pants at like 10 o'clock at night, and she hits the click to buy it now, and they show up in the morning at like 6 a.m. How does that all work? And like when she goes to return it, where does that stuff go?
Well,
I'm just from personal curious.
Absolutely. So it's all logistics, which is a fancy way of saying, truck locations. And so when they say, or when I talked about earlier, the fulfillment centers, it's essentially warehouses, and her order goes in, it gets picked, and it gets routed through, most of the time, the least busy location that is within, whether 1 day's drive, 2 days drive, etc. And then once it gets routed there are pickers on the floor, humans, that go through, and they go to a certain aisle, certain shelf, and they see this on their scanners, the scanners that like they use in clothing stores to scan the tag, and it's got the little computer screen on it. It's like 3 inches by 3 inches. They go through and they pull whatever was ordered, those pajamas that you like, with the cool colors.
So it's actually humans pulling it out of the bins then?
Humans pulling it out of the bins. So it's kind of like how were the pyramids built, with a lot of work. And that's what Amazon does at that base level. Now, once it gets pulled, it goes into a specific line. It's like a checkout. They just dump entire carts because they actually pull for multiple customers. So one picker, and that's an official title, one picker picks orders for 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, whatever they can fit in the cart. They take it to a specific line, and now that it's all QR and barcoded, that line, when it comes through, they'll scan that barcode and they say, this is for, Dallas, Texas, and it's this address for this person. So they just grab it, they box it, the label prints automatically, which printing the labels and stamping the labels on the box is one of the most difficult and frustrating points of this entire system. But it's packaged by hand. It either gets taped up by hand, which is rare, or it gets folded and then a box taper tapes it automatically. But once it's taped, it goes down conveyance that scans the barcode and routes it to the right truck. So if you've ever been at a warehouse and you see all these truck doors, each one of those truck doors is going to a different location. And it's most easily understood, the logistics is most easily understood if we say it's like going to the airport. Like if I'm going to fly to see my daughter in Seattle, hopefully I can take a direct route, but if I don't have a direct route, I might be routed through Dallas or Phoenix, and it's a second route. So that's what happens. The box gets transferred from that immediate warehouse to a truck going in your house's direction. And then once it gets there, it gets dropped off at a delivery center, which is a smaller center with not much mechanical. It's really all, again, individuals moving the boxes. And then it's very much like a FedEx or a UPS, which they can also deliver. It can be barcoded for UPS and UPS will deliver the package. Or Amazon more and more delivers to their own trucks. You see the cool smiley face buildings are on the side of the trucks. But it's all the same. They just grab the box and they deliver it. And the secret is having warehousing close enough to your location that they can make it available and get it to you within whatever time limit that is.
I see.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing the logistics that they put into this. I have to imagine it's not quite, but approaching the level of like airline logistics, right? That I think is probably a lot more challenging just because of the strict timing on everything. But still very, very complex stuff. So you also created this thing called Pocket Mentor, which I guess was world's first AI-based mentor. What made you come up with that idea, and what did you kind of want that to be used for?
Thank you for asking the question, because I think it's really important. I think it's an effective use of AI in that it amplifies the human. And for Amazon and other companies, I've done a lot of training. Ultimately, my feather in my cap was that what I did at Amazon that last time. And my takeaway again is giving the right person the right information at the right time. So what Pocket Mentor does. Imagine if, oh my God, how about this throwback? Let's set it aside for a moment. Do you remember traveling across the country before GPS, before Google Maps?
Oh yeah.
Road Atlas.
Yeah. Road Atlas, AAA, trip books, that sort of thing. And
MapQuest.
And what would happen if you had an accident ahead that blocked the route? You would have to stop, pull over. And so now you're not moving toward your destination or your goal. You have to figure out on your own how to get where you need to get. Now, if you're delivering a package, whether it be for Amazon or UPS or for any shop out there, the customer doesn't care if you ran into traffic. They're going to go, oh, he ran into traffic. Let's give it another day. We won't be mad. No, they want service. So GPS, whether your flavor is MapQuest or Google Maps or Apple Maps, it tells you, and it actually routes. It's proactive. With the GPS, and it says, hey, that route is blocked. Here's 2 alternatives, and we can choose and go. That's really how Pocket Mentor works. That was part of the inspiration there. But let's say you're on a job, again, blue collar, white collar, it doesn't matter. And you're on the job, and most of the time you're either using your hands or your eyeballs or both. And if you had to stop and look something up, well, now you're not moving toward your destination. So what Pocket Mentor does, it's actually a voice media that allows you to just press a button on your headset or on your phone. It's called Pocket Mentor because it fits on your phone. It's not an app. It can work through a web page or it can work through a telephone call, so you don't even need Wi-Fi or internet. But it's your buddy. It's your safety net. And now I'm kind of flashing back to the 1970s and 80s where, help, I've fallen and I can't get up. Remember when that started? Oh, yeah. Maybe I picked the wrong name. Maybe I should have went with that route. But essentially, it's the same thing. You hit the button and you start talking to your mentor. And this mentor, it's AI handles the translation between the human and the data set, the knowledge base. And that knowledge base, it's not the World Wide Web. You're not going to get crazy answers that the headlines talk about. It's going to be programmed with only the data for your job role. And so you say, hey, okay, help, where does this package go? What is the 3-step process to reset the computer or to reset the conveyor? And it will guide you through it. Things that you're responsible as a human to do anyway. And, sometimes we just have a hiccup. We have a brain fart. I mean, really, our brains weren't meant for long-term memory. So if we can fill in that long-term memory with computer support, well, then we can go about our day and be productive. And that's what Pocket Mentor does. It fills that gap when you say, help, I've fallen and I can't get up.
So it's specifically for vocational specific applications rather than general users, or can general users make use of it as well?
Well, it's because it's trained on a specific topic, then we just have to ingest that knowledge base, whatever it is, the cool technologies, right? Ingest, give it that data or database to run from. So if it's for, Ford Motor, it's going to be for a specific job. If it's for, Starbucks, somebody, how do they make that macchiato, et cetera thing again? Then it'll walk you through it. For home, I really don't have a civilian use or a consumer use, but it really is just as easy as trading that box and then talking to it.
Sounds like something that can be used pretty much in any field. I mean, in my head, as you were going through the scenarios, I'm thinking of a framer, building a home, right? And they come across a situation, they're like, oh, crud, what's the code on this? Pocket Mentor. Hey, Pocket Mentor, what's code on this type of framing with this, obstacle, etc.? Oh, here's the code for that in your location. Boom. All right, now you've got it.
Exactly right. It's having the right information at the right time. And the neat thing about using AI to deliver that information is that YouTube is great, right? YouTube has taught a lot of people and given people the confidence to go out, change the brakes on their car if they've never done it before. Replace the belt on their clothes washer if they've never done it before. But what happens when you go into a process and whatever you're fixing or repairing or building brand new doesn't follow, or maybe it didn't read the manual that you're reading? So what happens? So AI can actually create on-the-fly instruction from the core instructions to help you through those special scenarios.
Well, that's
In my head, I'm already thinking like auto mechanics, like a flow chart for diagnostics and stuff. That would, or HVAC technician, or any kind. Even a lot of the blue collar trades. That would be pretty good application, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And my background, I actually started blue collar. I don't think anybody's immune anymore that college doesn't have the payback that college once did. And we're seeing the boomer generation leave skilled trades positions, whatever the skilled trades are, whether they're building trades where you're doing contract work or you're in-house doing work. And, we are millions shy of having enough people for the trades. So my initial impetus was really to how can I use AI in a way that there is zero possibility it can replace humans. And that would be to help trade those in the trades, to have that right information at the right time, because it's the training that is most costly. Because when you bring an apprentice in, you essentially have to pay for the apprentice, and they don't know anything. There's no ROI on it, zero ROI, negative ROI. So if we can train people faster to do what they want to do and need to do, it makes the world a better place all over. It gets them on board faster. So it does reduce the cost for businesses to get their people trained, but at the same time, for the person themselves, there's surveys they give, I think, officially every 10 years or so, and they interview. They say, hey, where do you work? Why do you work there? What's the number one reason? And I know I'm 58, and I have never heard a year where I work here for the money, has been higher than 3. It's usually about fourth on that list. And the number one is typically, I want to feel productive. I want to do something. I want my life to have meaning. And so if we can give that information to them that they need so they can perform, it makes them more mentally healthy, and it's a benefit to the businesses that employ those people. So it truly is a win-win-win all the way around.
Well, I will say there's one downside. There's definitely one downside. Having worked in the trades myself, if a person were equipped with Pocket Mentor, it would be very challenging for the customary, expected, and really just part of the initiation when you sent the new guy out to find the door stretcher. I mean, he's going to go, well, there's no such thing. Well, you're supposed to go out to the truck and be looking for it for an hour. You know what I mean? I'm just saying.
Hey, we can program a snipe hunt anytime, and we could randomize it.
There you go. You got to have the hazing for the new guys. It's just part of the gig, right?
Hey, go look on the shelf. Give me some blinker fluid. It's over there by the oil.
Yeah, you're saying that in jest, but I truly believe there's value to that. It helps bonding, helps camaraderie. Now, I don't believe anybody should die from it, but no. If you don't get those spark plugs changed in that diesel, then by the end of the day, then you might as well not come back tomorrow.
Right? Yeah. Awesome. So your company, Practical AI, what coming from where you were, what was the impetus for starting this company, and what is it about? What is it that makes Practical AI different in a world full of AI stuff?
I think Practical AI is AI that you don't really see. It's AI that does something. It's not headlines. It's we're not looking to change the world, and we are looking to change the world, but the only way we're going to do that is through solid, practical, and pragmatic use of whatever tools and technologies that come to us. So, Practical AI, I was very conscientious about choosing that name because there has to be practical application. And if you can't understand it, well, then you're probably trying to create a solution that doesn't need to exist.
So when you are engaged with a customer implementing, something, what does that look like? How do you, everyone wants AI, right? I mean, everyone wants AI and they want it to solve all the things and they want it to do everything. And I think this is where that, 89 to 95% failure rate comes in, is there's no actual plan or idea what the vision is for the end goal, right? So how do you deal with that? A new customer comes in and they want the world, and you have to kind of take them down
temper their expectations.
Yeah, take them down a funnel to find what is your vision, what is the ultimate goal of what you're trying to implement here.
Well, that's that human factor, and the human factor, it drives it all. Technology cannot outpace the human factor, good or bad. So, if a company has SOP, standard operating procedures, we can take that and I can have for them a running Pocket Mentor by the end of the day. But if we get to a company and we say, okay, what do you want to do? Well, we want to do this role. And you say, okay, what does that role do? Well, I don't know. Hey, Jim, what do we do here? And if it comes down to one of those, so even though we're a technology company, a lot of that interaction is just standard, boots on the ground. Let's find out what you actually do and how you do it, because we need to have the answers. And the neat thing about it is that once those answers are documented, everybody has access to them across the realm. I like Ford's CEO because he is really a big sponsor of skilled trades. He says, hey, we need them. We got to train them. We're short on them. And every time he talks about them, I read his article, listen to it and such. And I really think it is important that we get that right information to the right people at the right time so they can do the human things that make us all successful.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you were diagnosed neurodivergent later in life. And I'm wondering, how did that play into your founding of the company and Pocket Mentor and your book that it's coming, right? It's not out quite yet.
The audiobook is out. Okay. The print version will be out later this summer. But yeah, the Human First AI is available now. And since you mentioned it, I'll give every listener that you have a free chapter. They can just go to my site and read the first chapter for free. They don't even need to pop in their email address. It's all easy.
Wonderful. So how did that play into the founding of the company, the creation of these tools, and how has this helped you in your journey with your neurodivergent aspects of life?
Well, the fact that I was diagnosed at age 50, I started thinking that maybe there's another category I belong to back in my 40s, but still a good chunk of my productive adult life I spent in the self-help aisle, almost permanently, reading, listening, watching, why is this round peg not fitting in the round hole? Well, it turned out I wasn't a round peg. I was a square peg, and I didn't realize it. So because I couldn't connect, and my neurodivergence diagnosis at age 50 was autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. So the dyslexia kind of gives me the reason why I could never finish a book in school for a book report. Just because everything, these letters keep jumping around. I don't know. I thought my eyes were just twitching. I really did. But when I was diagnosed, it was I did some actual crying, tears falling from my eyes for about 2 weeks. Just there are tears of pain, tears of joy, tears of relief, because now I had a name and a category, and I could seek information that helped other people, apply it to myself, new information in a different way. And I was working at Amazon at this time. It was early in my last Amazon tenure, And I embraced it. I was at the point where I'm just exposing myself, sharing my vulnerability, I think is what people say. And I put it on my email tagline, and I essentially said, hey, I'm autistic. I'm different. If what I said isn't clear, well, that's probably just me. Just reach out. We'll straighten it all out. And by me sharing that, I think it took a chip off my shoulder for one. So it allowed me to understand that not everybody is going to understand me, and I should be okay with that. But at the same time, it put other people on notice by seeing that. They thought, oh, and now I'm just kind of imagining this little this conversation in their mind. Oh, that's why Derek did that the other day. There's a reason. He's just not being negative. He was actually trying to solve a problem. So I think embracing that and letting others around me know rather than trying to keep it in, I think that was a big platform and a launch point for what later became a foundation for being vulnerable in the program, sharing what I know, more importantly, sharing what I don't know. Because there's always that, the more we know, the more we realize that we don't know. It's very eye-opening. And I think that was a very big part of it right there, Havok, was that just learning that this is who I am and trusting that that's who I'll always be.
I think the big question a lot of people might have, and especially people that might have some of these conditions themselves, how do you go for 50 years undiagnosed? And what actually brought about a diagnosis? I'm sure it was like probably a weight lifted off your shoulders when you found that out.
Well, it was a weight lifted off my shoulders for sure, because now I had a group I could identify with and connect with. But I was born in 1967. I am only about a generation away from Hilltop people. So, it's not something that you talked about, not something that people even knew about. The term neurodiverse and neurodivergent wasn't even coined until the late 90s. And that was really kind of like the umbrella for all us weird people that are out there. And I love the fact that we start talking about, us weird people, because I truly think that if we counted all the neurodivergence in the world, I don't think we would be the minority. I think we're probably the majority out there. We're all different in our own way. And my family history, it turns out, once I found out, on my dad's side at least, we have a high. And it is genetic. The autism side has been traced genetic. We have a high rate of autism, about 3 times normal. And that correlates, or maybe it's just coincidence, we have a high rate of suicide on my dad's side of the family too. So, but growing up, it was, man's world, right? You didn't speak about problems, you just solved them. And especially when I went to work in trades, I'll tell you, the people out there in the building trades, I would probably trust a lot of them with my life, but then others, I wouldn't trust at all. So it's a wider gamut, and it's the Wild West is what it was. So my time really was keep my mouth shut, and How I eventually got on the train for diagnosis was just out of self-preservation and pursuit. I think I had some time once my kids got grown up that I started looking for answers in new places, and I finally got there. But, back in the 60s, 70s, even 80s, people just weren't talking about this stuff.
All right.
Yeah, and especially in the trades. I like I said, I worked trades for a number of years, masonry, and it is one of those things. You just, there's no, like, nobody cares about how you feel. Nobody cares about an owie you got. I remember working concrete, and I got a pretty bad cut on my hand at one point, and one of the guys looked at me and he goes, "Here," and slapped some cement into my hand, dry. Cement, Portland cement from the bag, slapped that on there, rubbed it in, threw some duct tape around it, and goes, "You're good to go." And that's kind of how the trades works, right? So, oh, well, it doesn't matter, right? The concrete moves from here to there, the concrete goes in this form, and that's it. Nobody cares about anything else,
Yeah. Did you work out of the hall, or did you work for one company?
No, I worked for a private contractor. So we mainly, we did do some commercial work, but never worked union. So we would go, do piecework for some of the large communities. I was living in Southern California at the time. So a lot of buildings just popping up insane, like popcorn, just pop, 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 pop. And, we'd come up and, there's a need for someone to do tile for bathrooms. And you just do piecework, right? But most of what we were doing was custom. So we'd go into neighborhoods with new homes, people buy the homes, we'd go pitch, patios in the backyard, outdoor kitchens, water features, whatever, right? Brick entryway, whatever. Yeah.
Cool. I was just telling my wife earlier today, we were talking about my time back in the day, and I tried coming out of high school. I was kicked out of the house when I was 18, so I was trying to go to college on my own, pay for it on my own, live on my own, and then I was pointed toward the trade, so I added that and was trying to go through trade school and work at the same time of college. Eventually dropped the college part back then, and so I worked out of the hall for the first, 5 or 6 years, which meant that I might have 14 W-2s at the end of the year. I might have a job that's a day long or a week long or a month long. Never had anything more than 6 months. And it was, you show up, or if you don't show up, hey, don't come back tomorrow. There's no reason to. They cut bait and go. And it definitely was Wild West scenario. And like you said about, when you got that cut, hey, patch it and go on. You don't want to be a problem. What's that? There's a Japanese proverb talks about a nail sticking out is going to get whacked. So we try not to be that nail that sticks up and causes problems.
Yep, absolutely. Move on. Get whatever it is. Just fix it and move on. And if you can't, well then we'll contact you when we have something else. Just bye. That's pretty awesome. So what are I guess some of your favorite, because I have to imagine that you stay in contact with people when you contract with them for an implementation. What are some of your favorite success stories? And you don't necessarily have to go into the organization because confidential information, et cetera, but what are some of your favorite success stories, and how did that translate for you, business wise?
Well, thinking through, one that bubbles up is, it was a success story. There was a chain of schools. I say school, they were like it wasn't kinder care, but it was child care / education all in one. So they were actually looking to sell their company. They had it was I think like 83 locations. And all their knowledge was in the brain of the main person, and they might have had one manager. Might have. I mean, you go into any retail establishment, you're lucky to find somebody that knows what's going on there. But they had very few people that the minority knew what was going on everywhere. So now they're selling this, or they want to sell it, and people were interested in buying, but they were hesitant because once you buy a business, the knowledge, that runs, especially a service business like this, walks out the door. So there's a lot of times there's contracts as, hey, the CEO and if it's a big company, the VP, a number of named people agrees to sign on and be consultants for a week, 6 months, 6 years, whatever that is. And what we ended up doing, we ended up documenting all the knowledge, all their SOPs. So it made them work better because now everybody had access to the information. But at the same time, it allowed them to market themselves with, holding their head high, because when we sell, it's going to be not just the buildings and the clients that are ephemeral, right? They could disappear at any time, but you have the knowledge, and anybody in your organization can talk to Pocket Mentor and ask questions and get the same answers I would give to you one-on-one. Now, some people say that, it's never going to be 100% human. Well, that's fine. We don't need to be 100% human. As long as we can, follow that Pareto rule, right? 80-20. If we can cover 80% of the answers in 20% of the time, well, then that helps everybody. And because of what they did, education, anything education, I'm fanatical about. I think there's no substitute for education. I mean, if there was, we wouldn't know, right?
We wouldn't be educated on it.
I'm sure that I'd really like to see how that Pocket Mentor works, because I think in the back of our brain, at least me, I think of my wife trying to call the pharmacy and her yelling at the thing, "No, speak to a pharmacist. No, I don't want the photo department." And getting in a fight with the thing that I'm sure yours is much better than that.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because a lot of those problems aren't from AI. They're IVR, which the acronym escapes me right now, but IVR is that it's enter somewhere, interactive voice recognition, IVR. See, I knew I'd get there. Edit out that hiccup, will you?
Nah, I'm not leaving it.
But those IVRs, they look for keywords, and if they don't hear the keywords, then they're just computers talking. They're recordings that cause them problems. The AI that's out there, it's actually just now, in the past 12 months is where it's really reached out to a level where, if it's implemented correctly, the AI will actually make those interactions more enjoyable and fruitful. So one of my frustrations with that IVR is, well, even like on generic voicemail, you go to leave a voicemail. The first thing I want to know after I left the message is, which button do I need to push, if any, to save the voicemail? But no, it tells you that last. It says, press 1 if this is important. Press 2 if it's not important. Press 3, if you'd like to hear your message. And, like 30 seconds later, it says, or hang up to end this call and save your message. So they're all different too. Do I press pound? Do I press star? Do I just hang up? And if AI can actually facilitate that, like you said, when it's done correctly, it's a tool. And I can shoot you some numbers, and you can try out. I think my first Pocket Mentor was how to fold a paper airplane.
Really interesting.
That is kind of interesting. So how do you limit? So one of the big things that's always frustrating about AI, I think for everyone, right, is one of the big benefits of it is its ability to, do inference, right? But also one of the big detriments is it can infer things that don't actually exist, like maybe bits and pieces do in different areas, but yeah, it all fits together. So here, how did you go about limiting the inference, which could lead to, probably not disastrous, but bad information coming through?
Absolutely. So if I forget what your question is, remind me, but I want to preface this by a little story. So IBM, back when they were doing AI before us consumers could play with AI, they had this thing called Big Blue, and they were teaching it chess. And Gary Kasparov is who they challenged, and Gary Kasparov kicked Big Blue's butt. And so they said, well, let's try this again. And then Gary Kasparov kicked their butt again. But eventually, IBM's AI beat Gary Kasparov. And so that was like a telling point. Computers have finally gotten smarter than AI, or smarter than humans, is what the headlines read. But if we go back and analyze what happened, Gary Kasparov at the time was the #1 ranked chess player in the world. Those guys and gals, they're pretty smart, right?
Yeah.
They analyzed the decisions that were made by the computer, and they found out that the computer only made the optimum decision, or the best decision, or the right decision 2 out of 3 times. So what that means is that even the best chess player in the world would make the best decision less than 2 out of 3 times, maybe like 1 out of 2 or a little more. So if we take this, perfection with a grain of salt, and if we want to validate, is AI worth it or is AI working, we have to understand that, we're not getting 100% accuracy right now. Even if we're on the line, even if we call and we say, hey, how am I supposed to do this? I forget. In manufacturing, I spent a lot of time in automotive manufacturing. If the line goes down, they want it up and running. They don't care who gets it up and running, but depending on the problem, a lot of time it's John, right? And if it's 5 o'clock, John's already home for the day, so John gets a phone call because John is the subject matter expert, the SME. And John gives them the answer. Now, will that answer be the right answer? Well, it's probably going to be the best answer. But if we've already looked at the data and that humans aren't right 100% of the time, John's probably going to be right, but even his answer could be wrong. And that's what we need to look at. So if we're looking to amplify humans, we want to do at least as good as the human does. If we can just do that to support the human and speed up the answer, it's a win. And at the same time, AI, computers in general, their scalability. John isn't always going to be available at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday, because it could be 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday. And, your low-ranking operator or millwright or repairman is going to be there on their own, and they only have about 6 months experience, and they don't know how to answer that question. So they could call John. I tell you, John's been around long enough. He's not going to answer that phone on a Saturday night. So how do they get that answer? AI will allow them to scale that answer. Now, your question, if I recall correctly, is how do we know it's given the right answer? And the way we know it's giving maybe not 100% of the time the right answer, but the best answer is that we reduce the knowledge set to the smallest size possible. So if we stay in automotive manufacturing, we might give specifics on how to change brakes on a Chevy versus how to change brakes on a Ford. There's a lot of similarities, but there might be certain springs or clips that are different. So we don't even include information that is not applicable to that specific role. And this is where AI succeeds, is when we limit its responsibility. It's AI, in my belief, will never be available to one instance, answer every question in the world. It won't. But if we reduce the specificity of the knowledge to as small a data set as possible, something that is specific for one role, one job, then it will be right 99+% of the time.
Is there any research or thought put into what the voice model used sounds like, whether it's a male voice or a female voice or even the accent or anything, or are they all pretty much just standard?
Well, see, now you're into my daughter's realm. She's a psychologist, but she fell into technology. She's been working technology front. They call that human factors, HF. And it's that interface, what is best for the human. Now, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, if we were being taught how to do a new job, whether it's at home, on the farm, or at Ford Motor, we're going to be told one way, and we have to figure it out on our own. And we either adapt or we don't. And about half to 2/3 can get it on the first try, but then the other half to 1/3 may not figure it out, or it may take too long to figure it out, then they lose their job. So it's getting that information in the shortest amount of time that's important. So what AI allows us to do is specialize. Today we are at a one-size-fits-one role. And if I have we have IQ, which is intelligence quotient, like how much do we know? But then there's also EQ, which came about 30 years ago or so, the emotional quotient. It's how well I can connect to you as a human to human. And if I stumble upon you and You fell off your bicycle. I'm going to treat you like you just fell off your bicycle. That's the context. And if you just won the lottery, I'll go have a beer with you. Hey, congratulations. Nice job. Hey, what a lucky cat you are. And AI is in a position where whether we're neurodivergent, or what's neurotypical is the normal people is by, the big category here. AI doesn't care because AI will adapt much quicker than a human will to the context, what type of questions you ask, what type of answers you expect, and it will keep track of every answer that AI gives from the SOP, from the company database. If the human says, now, wait a minute, can you explain that to me again? Or can you tell me how that works with a blue whatchamacallit instead of a red whatchamacallit? Then AI will rephrase and AI will adapt to that individual to have that like best friend, I've known you all my life communication. So the communication value is just the efficiency just skyrockets because it is that one size fits one. And AI can do that for pennies on the dollar versus putting humans in to, stand by, we'll take your call. Operators are standing by. That's what I was going for, right?
So the way you trim down the inference problem is literally your LLM. I'm assuming is like you said. You're saying, okay, well, this is a Ford plant. I don't need to include Chevy. I don't need GM. I don't need, Dodge. I don't need any of this stuff, Chrysler, etc. I just need to train it only on the Ford specific data and maintain just that subset of data, documents, maybe their document repository, etc. And thereby you limit the amount of inference that can be, brought up by AI by not allowing it access to, non-relevant material.
Absolutely. We do the same thing with humans. And that's really where this adapts from. My takeaways at my time at Amazon and the successfulness of the program that I had there, and then using AI for what AI can do, the technology of it is adapt and deliver that information. But just like you would take a Ford to a Ford mechanic, a Chevy mechanic might fix the Ford. But, some of us says, no, I'm going to the expert because the Ford mechanic is going to know more than the Chevy mechanic does. So yeah, we're following the same model as humans do. We're just amplifying those human abilities.
That is pretty cool. Very cool.
I'm just curious, what happens if somebody asks it something that's outside of its purview? Say, like, hey, Pocket Petra, you want to chat today? Hey, how you doing today? They're just lonely and want somebody to talk to. Does it have something that cues up and says, I can't talk about that?
Well, it's interesting you said that because mental wellness is huge, and it's in HR departments, keeping track of how the workers actually feel day to day. Because are they going to come in tomorrow if it's a bottom line, or can we make your day better? Good HR departments and good HR employees really do care about the employees. So in a situation like that, it's whatever the company contracts for. It's their information. We don't create the information. We give we give a new interface to that information for their employees so it feels more like osmosis than, be standing and being blared at for a week and then go out and try to do a job. So if they ask a question that's out of context, it's only out of context if it's outside the SOP. But we do have those mental awareness and wellness triggers in there that can do whatever the company designed. We can have it chat back a time or two. Or we can just say, hey, I think you better talk to, John or Peggy or Mary over in HR. You should defer there. So it is programmable. It's guardrails to as tight as you want to run the guardrails, just like any piece of software is. So it can either engage or redirect, but there's always going to be a limitation on how far it engages, and because it is important to keep that knowledge pool as small as possible.
Interesting.
Very cool. Well, I think this is probably a good place to start wrapping up a little bit here. One of the things we like to do with all of our guests is give them an opportunity to give back to someone that was influential to them. And throughout our lives, we have, a figure that had a massive impact on us. It could be a 6th grade science teacher, historical figure, an author. It could be mom. But who would you like to shout out?
Well, it's posthumously, but Kim Chavez. She was my first supervisor when I was at Amazon, and she gave me some insight because working at Amazon in the kind of a white collar crowd and one of the largest companies in the world that is just all over you. You got to produce or you're gone type of scenario. She gave me some advice, and it was treat the job like it's a business, which did 2 things. One, she said, keep track of the good things that you do because nobody else cares. And when it comes time for, selling your program or selling yourself, you have valid data points to share. And that was one point. The other point is that she has an autistic child herself. And so she was actually a couple of years younger than I, but I always looked at her as a mother figure because she treated me with, kid gloves. I still feel like I'm a kid with this autism. It's just, it's hard for me to say I'm the best person in the room, even if I am, which, it might happen, but it's rare. But she would do what good leaders do, and that is stand up for your employees and protect their backsides, but allow them to grow and perform to what they're capable of. And under her guidance and her shield of protection at a company like Amazon, she took a lot of hits for me, but the payoff allowed me to build something that had never been built at Amazon. Because she took care of some of the business stuff that I wasn't comfortable or capable of doing. It allowed me to be creative and to continue to grow something good. And I admire her for the business acumen that she had, and I admire her for the person to person personability and love she had for other humans.
It's awesome. I think you're the first guest we've ever had that shouted out a supervisor. I mean, it's a pretty cool thing. And I started in my brain thinking about it, and I'm like, wow, there are a few people that I would probably shout out too in that same role. Very cool. So where can people find you? What do you have going on? Where, you said the audiobook is released. Where is the best place for someone to find that? And yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you'll have room in the show notes. We can put a couple of URLs underneath the
absolutely
audio. But if you Google me, I come up pretty readily. Practicalai.app, practicalai.app is the business home for my company. And the book, everybody can get a free read of the first chapter at humanfirstai.net.
Awesome. So practicalai.app or humanfirstai.net.
Yes.
Go check them out. It's
Thank you.
good stuff. Thank you very much for giving us some of your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you for giving us some of your time as well. You know where you can find us. We're everywhere. Podcasts can be found, as well as YouTube and, other social media sites. If you like this, give us a thumbs up. If not, give us a thumbs down. Leave a comment. If you have an idea for a show, topic, guest, throw that in the comments. We'll reply and be happy to try and work on getting something done. And remember, wherever you are, whenever you're watching this, have an amazing day.
Thanks for coming by, Derek. See you, everybody.